welcome back to another episode of the Denway Podcast. It's going to be a cool conversation. I finally got my homeboy on here. Um, it's going to be a great conversation with him, and I'm about to introduce him. I'm gonna say Levon because I won't be professional, but I call him Lily. So what's going on, Lily? How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, man. I can't complain. Finally got you on the show, man. I'm happy to chop it up with you and everything like that. So I'm gonna throw a couple little small questions at you. Where you from?
Cleveland, Tennessee, born and raised.
Born and raised Cleveland, Tennessee. That's where I live at. So where you live at now?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia now.
Atlanta, Georgia. How you liking it out there?
I like it a lot, man. It's definitely a pretty cool place. Lots of things to do. A lot of good networking out here, so it's the place for me.
Yeah. So what you do? I mean, in the truck dispatching world, how important is that to be networked with people and get around people that's doing business?
Great question. It's very important, because one thing about trucking is all different types of people on trucks. It's not one of those things where it's like very field specific. So what I mean by that is like you might run into your average Joe that works like a 9 to 5 and they might
Mm-hmm.
own a truck. You might run into doctors, lawyers, just everyday people, all different people from all walks of life on trucks. So I mean, yeah, it's definitely important because you never know what somebody is doing as their main business or as their side business.
Okay. So what is your main? How does it work? What is a way that your kind of go to network? How do you? Um, Let me see how I'm trying to ask this question. Like, what is your best way to network with people in those fields?
Well, as you know, me and you both got a affinity for cigars, so that's a pretty good way. Cigars
Mm,
definitely help me network. That's one of my main ways. You meet a lot of people from different walks of life. Social media, also word of mouth. Those are really the main ways. Sometimes getting out, hitting events, and things like that as well.
and when you talk about cigars, like one of my favorite places to go to is OCL. Like, if you listen to any of my podcasts, people know that I love OCL, and so your brother is actually part owner of OCL, Ocoee Cigar Lounge. And knowing y'all, man, it's just cool to see like your family have be very business minded, bro. Like, how did that come about? Like, is it just y'all? Is your parents like? Because I see y'all like, and even knowing Abu, like some of the things he did even before opening up OCL, like he's always been business minded. So,
Yeah, I guess it's just kind of one of those things where my parents growing up, my dad was a lot older, so by the time
mm,
I was born, he was already retired, and my mom pretty much stay at home. So I always kind of seen my dad hustling and things like that. Doing extra things to go along with his retirement money and
mm,
things. So I've always just kind of been around it. And then Abu, although he's my brother, he's actually 14 years older than me. So
mm.
I got to see a lot of his moves at an early age too. So I always kind of, just had that confidence just by seeing, people that I was around, making money for themselves.
Yeah, that's what's up. Like I said, I always see y'all in it. And Abu's always busy coming through the OCL, running through. Hey, I got a meeting, I got to go. Always try to get that money. So, but it's cool, man. So it's funny because I think me and you, we always kind of knew each other through a mutual friend, Bright Sharp. Man, he's been on my podcast a long time ago. I would like him to come back on the show, and he's trying to get that money too, man. Like, talk about your relationship with him, like, because he's a cool, important person. I like Bryce, man.
Yeah, well, actually, Bryce is my cousin, and also he's my nephew because my my dad is actually his granddad. So
Okay.
I would say we're cousins. On my mother's side, it's kind of funny. It's like some country stuff, like my mom and his dad are cousins, but then my dad is actually his granddad. I know that sounds crazy. So me and him are actually double kin on both sides of the family. So we're more like brothers because
Mhm.
obviously we're the same age. We went to school together, and so I say he's one of my best friends and family member slash brother.
That's what's up, man. So growing up in Cleveland, like you play sports. I'm gonna get to this trucking, but I'm trying to get a little background on you. So you
Oh,
play
oh yeah.
you pl-
I played sports growing up, well, just around the neighborhood. Being from Cleveland, especially when I was coming up
mhm,
in the early 2000s, it wasn't a lot to do. So hanging out at like the rec centers and playing basketball, playing football outside and things like that. I never really got too much into playing organized sports just because I was kind of my grades was always bad. I was one of
mhm.
those kids, so I could never really stay on the team. Plus, I wasn't like a hell of an athlete or nothing like that, but I definitely played for sure.
That's what's up. What was your favorite sport?
Growing up, it was football. Um, just because it involved a little bit of contact and things like that, running away from people. So that yeah, I'd have to say football for sure.
Yeah, being in Cleveland, like I see a lot of it's a lot of cool athletes here that's coming out of Cleveland and things like that. I'm like, man, that's kind of cool. I actually like the history. Like, I think I found a cool place to live at being here in Cleveland. Um, so you go to school. You go to school at MTSU, right? To college.
Yes, sir.
So
I
you talk
went there.
about like not. I'm sorry. You talk about like not. So not having the grades. What changed? Because actually you went to school, you went to college. So what changed with that?
Oh man, that's a beautiful question. So basically, when I was in 12th grade,
Mm-hmm.
I was on my way to not being able to graduate, and
Mm-hmm.
what happened was is I got sent to like an alternative school that allowed me to graduate with like a few less credits than it
Mm-hmm.
normally would have if I would have stayed in my normal high school.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to still graduate on time. And then with that being said, I was kind of embarrassed, about that. So
Mm-hmm.
I went to Cleveland State first, and I kind of crushed it. I had like a 3.0 GPA my first year because I always knew that I was a smart kid. I was just not focused and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So, like I said earlier, kind of through that just a little bit of shame of not being able to graduate with my class, it kind of straightened me up a little bit. And after my first year of junior college, I was able to qualify to go to a university. So that's kind of how I ended up in Middle Tennessee State.
That's what's up, man. I know, like a lot of times, like taking advice and listening to people. Like you're younger than me, but like every time we get together, bro, like I don't care that you're younger than me. I always listen to what you say. Like you advise you, like you got something to say. Like I've always listened to you, so like I speak very highly of when when I talk to people about you. Like that's one thing that I'll say. It's not too many people that's younger than me that I will sit and like actually listen to and be like and take them serious. But you've always been that person that I like. Yo, I'm a listen to what he got to say because you give me good advice, man, and when you talk, you make sense. So.
Yeah.
Um,
I appreciate that, man. I mean, that also, like I said earlier, I
mhm,
grew up with older parents, and
mhm,
again, my siblings are so much older than me, so I kind
mhm.
of that was really a blessing. I kind of was able to get a lot of wisdom just from being around older people my whole life.
For sure. But sometimes people don't recognize that, like been in that situation, they don't gain that wisdom that you got. So that's very cool. So, staying in college, what did you graduate? What was your major?
I actually did not graduate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still probably about a year and a half from getting a bachelor's degree if I wanted to go back. So at the time I actually was switching majors, business administration,
Mm-hmm.
African American studies, things like that. But I never finished, man. And I had planned on finishing. However, I ended up kind of finding my niche in what I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing right now. So at this point, I really don't see a reason to finish.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. So, talk about your niche, man. You want to introduce that to the people? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, so I am a freight manager. Some would call it a freight dispatcher. So basically, what we do is we find owner operators or small fleet owners, trucking companies, and we're the one who would find the shipments for them. So one of the things is like if you see trucks driving down the interstate or locally down the road, you wonder sometimes what's in the back of them. My job is to find what's in that trailer.
That's what's up. Yeah, and fortunately, I got a chance to, get on with you for a couple months, man, and enjoy that and to see what you do. And that ain't no joke, bro. Like it's like what you do is very cool. I learned a lot from it. And I'm still curious, and I still have stuff on YouTube that I look at even now about truck dispatching and trucking and things like that. But like, how did you end up getting into that? How did that fall into your lap?
Man, so what happened is again like you said earlier, I've always wanted to go into business for myself and work for
Mm-hmm.
myself. I never was a great employee. I was one of them types that, if I don't feel like going to work, I just might not go, kind of like call in and things like that. So I always just wanted to be independent and on my own. So the thing was, I got with a couple of my cousins, and we were just talking about business, and we were like, let's try to do something in real estate. And you know, I'm really just talking. I don't know nothing about real estate. I don't know the
Mm-hmm.
process of buying a house or anything or flipping a house. And it sounded good, but as I kind of started to do a little bit of research, like I said, I started to see that it's just not a simple process from a financial standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I was like, well, let's buy a truck. But when I looked into trucking, I'm like, okay, that seems maybe it could be a little more feasible.
Mm-hmm.
But what the hell is in the back of the truck? Like, how does that
Yeah.
work? So as to going down a rabbit hole on that, I ran across this YouTuber that was dispatching trucks. And my background, like I said, when I was working a job, my background, I was already kind of working in call centers and things like that. And I've always loved talking to people. I always loved like an element of sales and persuasion and things like that. Um, so when I seen what the job entailed, it was kind of like, oh man, this might be the perfect fit
Mm-hmm.
for me. And I just kind of took the game and just ran with it. And we are where we are now, and that was about 3 years ago at this point.
3 years ago. I know I asked you, when I was working with you, um, when did it click? Knowing, hey, I'm doing this and I'm doing it. I'm doing it. But like, when did it click? It's like, oh, I could be great at this. Like, I got it. I know that everything's falling into place right now. Like, when did that click for
For,
you?
for me, it was really just the proof of concept. Like once I
Mm-hmm.
was able to sign on my first carrier and I booked my first load and made my first because you were doing it with me, so we charge a percentage of what the load is paying out to the trucking company. So I guess, for example, if it was $1,000 for the truck to run the shipment, we would make anywhere from 8 to 10%. So if it was 10%, it would have been $100. So when I made my first amount of money, whatever that amount was, that's kind of when I knew, like, all right, it came to fruition. And for me, I mean, it took. I told you 3 years earlier, but I'm actually in my fourth year. I'm just in my third year of consistently making money off of the business. But for me, it probably took maybe like a month to actually get my first carrier. It was a guy, he was new as well. He didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. So it was just like the perfect match.
Yeah.
And it probably, even after I got him, it probably took another couple months for him to even be ready to to actually go out and work. So once I got him his first load, I knew from there, bro. I'm like, all right, this kind of what I'm doing.
That's what's up. So what is your process of reaching out to people and trying to get work or trying to get those owner operators?
So it goes back into what you were talking about earlier. Like the word of mouth. I don't really want to give all the secrets out.
Yeah,
We can talk about that off camera, but
yeah.
mainly word of mouth, social media. Again, the regular just networking, man. That's kind of how you do it. There's websites that have trucking data. Get on those. Send emails, text message. In all reality, it's not really a secret sauce. Just running your mouth, man, talking to people and sending out emails and text messages and things like that. And just at the end of the day, hoping you find someone that's a good fit for what you're trying to do.
That's what's up. So getting into, and that's another question I want to ask you, like um, getting into truck dispatching. What is the overhead, starting your own business like in trucking? Is it a major? Is it a little bit? Like, what does that overhead look like for you to start?
Man, that's the beautiful thing about it. It's a service-based business. So technically there is no overhead except for things that you already have. So really, all you need is a cell phone. You already got that. A computer. You likely already got that, and you likely already have Wi-Fi. That's really all you need. And then your investment would be your overhead would basically be like your load boards. So there's different load boards out there that you can use, like DAT, Truck Stop, Direct Freight, and things like that. So you get on the load board and you try to secure shipments. Now, to scale the business, that's kind of when you have more overhead. Because, like I said, I didn't want to throw too many secrets out there. But if you like running ads and things like that to kind of bring in business, then at that point, it'll go up. But that just really depends on you and what you're trying to do, because there is a lot of free ways to secure business.
Talking about some of the, um, some of the cool moments. I know, like when I was working with you, like there was time we'd be laughing about like some like trucks. We had this one guy that you always had to wake up and you had to call him
Yeah,
so many times. And
yeah.
like talk about some of those times like that. Like we laugh about it, but it's in that moment it's stressful because you're trying to get them to be on time and do what they got to do, but you feel like you got to babysit. Like
Yeah, yeah. So that, I guess, I don't know if that's a cool moment or a bad
it's
moment,
not cool. Yeah, not cool, but yeah.
but yeah. So I mean, it definitely can be stressful, because a lot of times you have drivers that are kind of like kids. You got to babysit them. You got to make sure they getting the freight there on time and things like that. As you know, with that one driver, we would have to wake them up
Mm-hmm.
because he'd be late for shipments and things like that. So that's definitely one of the cons is that, especially starting out. Now I think I'm at a level now where even when me and you were working together about a year ago, I've learned so much since then. Now when I see certain signs like that, I probably wouldn't even deal with them in the first place. But
Yeah.
when you're first starting out or you're trying to build, you really don't have that luxury. So those things definitely can be stressful. Just dealing with drivers, dealing with their attitudes. Because think about it, man. Most guys that's driving a truck and they don't actually own the truck, so they're not what's called an owner operator.
Mm-hmm.
They're likely doing that because they don't have a skill set to do nothing else. So
Mm.
sometimes you're dealing with attitudes, and then in their defense too, they're also away from their family, so you got
Mm-hmm.
to be able to empathize with that and things like that. So it's just like dealing with a whole nother personality of a human being. Sometimes you got to be their therapist and things like that. But the good side is, man, it could be profitable. Sometimes I've had a couple trucks that had like $8,000-9,000 weeks, and
Mm.
it's just a beautiful thing, because if you get two or three trucks doing that, you consistently, you can make pretty decent money.
That's what's up. Yeah, I know, and like doing all the babysitting things like that, and it's so if they late. For instance, if they late, they may be refused the load, right? That could be a problem.
Well, yeah. If they're late, they could
Mm-hmm.
be refused a load, or they could be it could be pushed back if they're late at the receiving end. So
Mm-hmm.
let's say, for example, they had an 8 o'clock appointment time for tomorrow morning and they missed that appointment time. They might not be able to work them in until either later that afternoon or evening. Sometimes it could be the next day. So think about it. If you drop in shipments every day and you're late and it knocks you off your schedule, then that could be 1,000 or two that you're losing, just because a driver didn't want to act right.
More of the story: be on time. Time is money.
Exactly. Exactly. For
You
sure.
know what I'm saying? I like that a lot. So how about what else do I want to know about trucking? I know I was probably one of the first people that you work with and doing it. How are you showing people the game now? You got a couple people now that you're working with.
Man, off and on, I've been showing people the game. It's kind of hard to keep somebody engaged,
Mm,
because this job can be a little tedious, but that's basically my goal for this year. Is I'm trying to build enough business to where I can bring on three other dispatchers. I do have one person that's totally engaged, and
mm.
it's a female, and I think her and I are going to be able to do some great things going forward.
That's what's up. What have that taught you? Teaching. Do you think you'll be doing some courses, some truck dispatching courses in the future?
Yeah, I definitely think so, but I
Mm,
think and this is just my personal opinion, I think you're more credible once you build a team first before
okay.
you start trying to teach it. Although I know everything to teach the game right now and
Mm,
kind of start coaching and courses, because I got enough time in. I've definitely booked enough freight to where I've seen all situations. But yeah, once I get this team built and it can pretty much run without me, then at that point, that's when I'm really going to focus on actually teaching courses and even going into possibly trying to do some other things as well.
that's what's up. I know I looked at one of your TikToks the other day while you was on the phone with a broker, and they were still too low for you. Like, nah, we can't do it. And it just took me back to the old days. We was on Zoom, trying to negotiate, man. Talk to me about
Yeah.
that negotiation process, man. it's fascinating to me. Like sometimes how they lowball you, and then sometimes it's like, oh, this was easy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I had to, the negotiation process was actually the hardest part. For it actually took me the longest to figure out, but
Mm-hmm.
once I figured it out, it got a lot easier. So basically, once you start doing it long enough, you start to understand which regions in the country pay better
Mm-hmm.
or pay well. So like once you run what's called a lane long enough, a lane would be from point A to point B. So let's say from Dallas to Detroit. Once
Mm-hmm.
you ran Dallas to Detroit enough, you start to understand how much that should pay.
Yeah.
And then once you kind of got that understanding, then that pretty much lets you know where you need to be negotiating at. And then another thing too about trucking is it's not a one size fits all. So
Mm-hmm.
each owner operator or trucking company, they have different expenses. So some trucks can afford to take the lane for cheaper than other trucks can. So you also got to be cognizant of that as well.
That so saying that kind of messes it up for the people that kind of need that. If they could take cheaper, if some people can afford to take cheaper, that kind of messes you up sometimes though because you need that rate to be at a certain point, though, right? Am I
Um,
making sense?
Yeah, no, you making sense. It don't necessarily mess me up, but it kind
Mm-hmm.
of it messes the market up. So if
Okay.
you get enough trucks taking cheap freight, then the brokers or what's called their customer, they're gonna see that trucks are taking it at a cheaper rate. So
Mm-hmm.
that might end up being the standard.
Yeah, I don't want that. So, hey, so while I was doing trucking with you, can we talk about the authority and like, can we talk about the authority and like the benefit from like the authority being, it's not really anything about new, but like older authority because sometimes when
Oh,
you call and you got to give them what is it called?
the
The
MC,
number, right?
yeah, the MC number. So
The
yeah,
MC number. I was like, yeah.
that's a great question. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, what a lot of people don't understand is it's funny because the way that social media and things are, and the way a lot of people come into trucking, they just think they about to buy a truck and make so much money, and
Mm-hmm.
it really don't work like that whatsoever. So, and it's funny because I'm glad you asked that question because it's even worse now from when me and you was working
Oh
together
wow.
because there's so much fraud and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, when you're new, a lot of brokers don't want to work with you because
Mm-hmm.
you don't really have a track record. So it's typically like you gotta once you turn 90 days, um, more brokers start to work with you. And also it depends on your equipment type too. Like a box truck in comparison to a 53-foot semi truck, that semi truck is going to have way more options at 90 days than that box truck would just
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many more loads out there. So it basically goes 90 days, then 6 months. It gets pretty good for you, and then
Mm-hmm.
after a year, that's when the floodgates typically open, and about 99% of all brokers are going to be willing to work with you as long as you got good safety scores and things like that.
Yeah, because that was one of the things calling the brokers and like, what's the MC? Blah 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 blah. Oh, you only got 3 months. We can't work with you.
Yeah.
Like,
Nah. And
I
that
was like,
that was really that goes back again to your question earlier.
mm-hmm.
Like the cons or like
Mm-hmm.
the things that are not cool. That's kind of rough, especially if you starting out. It's funny because when I actually started out 3 years ago, so much has changed. It
Mm-hmm.
was actually a lot easier to get for new authorities to get freight than it is right now. So that's one of those things that can be very frustrating is that you're trying to help a client secure a load but they can't. But no broker is willing to give them a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, it used to really piss me off
Mm-hmm.
that I'm like I would be like, damn man, how you expect somebody to get a load and you won't give them a chance? But now that I'm a lot more educated in the game,
Mm-hmm.
most trucking companies go out of business. I believe the statistic is in like anywhere from like 4 to 6 months. Like
Okay.
80%, 80% of trucking companies going to go out of business in that first year. So therefore, I kind of understand now why brokers are that way, because if you last a certain, if you're able to last a year, especially, it just says a lot about your company. It just says you're doing a lot of things right. It says you're able to maintain your truck. It just says so many good things about you, and especially if you got good safety scores. So now I understand exactly why they don't want any new carriers hauling their freight. And
Mm-hmm.
again, with so much fraud going on and people stealing freight and running off with it, it really could mess up their whole career if one bad thing happens. So it's definitely very difficult when you're starting out.
Yeah. So I mean, you talked about like kind of knowing like the person you bringing on, because that makes a difference too. Because if they lazy and don't want to do anything, and they still got a new authority, you like, man, I'm not gonna waste my time trying to find loads for you, and you don't even. I don't even think you're gonna make it. So it's like, why would I work with
Yeah.
you? Because
And that's one of the things that now in 2025 that I'm
mm,
getting way better at. I got
mm,
a little saying called turn them and burn them. If you,
mm,
and I hate to be, like just so I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, just not willing to, I don't want it to come off as if I'm unwilling to help someone. But once I kind of see that you don't have the right setup or the right work ethic, I got a little saying now. I just say I turn them and burn them. It's just like, hey man, we might as well, instead of spending time trying to get you there, we might as well just focus on getting somebody else that's at least halfway there or
that's what's up.
75% there.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So I see your hat. I gotta, you know, shout out the hat that you got on SSS Logistics. That's the trucking company. Talk to me about the name of the company.
SSS Logistics, I mean, it stands for Swift Spectacular Service.
Okay.
So that's kind of in trucking, you wanna do things fast, you want it to be spectacular and give a great service. So that's why it's SSS Logistics.
Man, I like that. Are you, doing this? Are you looking to in the future adopt into other, business opportunities?
Are you saying within trucking?
Not within trucking. I mean, you got the trucking, but like, say you want, there's another business out there that you like.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, man, honestly, my goal, over the next 5 to 10 years is to become a serial entrepreneur.
mhm,
So yeah, there's definitely other businesses that I want to dive into. We were speaking about my brother earlier. I'd love to get into a situation where we might be able to franchise Okoy cigars, open one down here in Georgia, or
yeah, we
something
was
like
talking.
that. You know what I'm saying? I'd like to eventually one day be able to get back into what started this idea in the beginning, is get into some real estate plays. you
Hmm.
know uh it's a lot, man. I could really talk all day about that. I want to do everything.
For
And
sure.
but to be honest with you, man, it's so many different ways to make money in trucking that I want to
Hmm.
conquer first, because that's why I asked you specifically, are you talking about within trucking? Because dispatching is just one aspect of it. We could be on the brokering end one day, owning our own assets and trucks and things like that. Might go into selling tires. Who knows? Trucking is a
Hmm.
almost like $1 trillion industry. So it's so many ways to make money. This dispatching thing is like a very small piece of the pie in all reality.
But you can learn a lot being a dispatcher. Yeah, I mean, I think that's cool. And what you can do with trucking. And I didn't even know it was that big before I even got into it. But like I say now, like I don't really be into it now, but I still sometimes in my algorithm on YouTube and things like that, or like I'm on TikTok, I see things like that. There's a live, like a female that I used to watch, and I still see some of her lives. And she's going over, trucking and things like that on that dispatching side. So
Yeah,
I just think it's a cool space to be in.
for
Um,
sure. For sure. Yeah, like I said, man, it's just so many different ways you can go with it. So my main thing is I definitely wanna conquer about 5 or 6 different ways to create revenue just in trucking before I venture out to other things.
that's what's up. That's what's up, man. I ain't gonna take too much of your time though. Let me ask you. Give. Let me say this. Let me ask you. What's the best piece of advice to give somebody that's looking to get into this field?
Uh Education, man. For one, just take the time to educate yourself. I got a little saying that I like to say, instead of running it down, walk it down, meaning
Mm.
like if you're in a position to just go ahead and buy a truck or whatever, don't do that. Educate yourself, learn from people, talk to people, and with any business, just try to go into it with the lowest expenses as possible, especially trucking, because the market changes. It's not just a one size fits all thing. Like during COVID, the rates were super high. So one of the things that happened was a lot of people went out and leased trucks or financed trucks or rented trucks and things like that. And they were able to make a lot of money for a specific amount of time. And then when the rates dropped so low, a lot of those people went out of business. So that's one thing that I learned by being a dispatcher is the people who actually make it in this game, they typically have very low expenses, meaning they own their trucks or own their assets. They find cheap insurance, and just their operating cost is very low. So um, I guess to bring it in, man, the advice that I give is just education, and once you get past the education part, just make sure them operating costs is low. That way, you're not stressed out trying to do the business.
People just doing things just because the money look good, but like I said, don't really have the work ethic. Don't really have aren't knowledgeable about things. So when that market does drop, it's like, dang, I made a mistake. So it's always good to research and prepare for what you're
For
trying to
sure.
do because it's not you gotta do what you gotta do. It's not, yeah. But I like that picture. Before I get off, I want to talk to you about that picture in the background, Nipsey. Yeah, I be rocking with that Nipsey hustle a lot, man. Like
Yeah, yeah.
he be giving you some game and his songs and stuff like that, man. Like, um, does he motivate you? Like when you listen to his songs and things like that?
Yeah, most definitely, man. That was my that's been my favorite artist since 2016. So I got on him probably about 4 years before he expired or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, from that time even until now, man, I probably listen to something of his work every day. So yeah, he's a huge motivation for me for sure. I like to say I got high respect and love for that guy, man. I wish he was still with us.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Is there anything that you want to talk about that I've missed? That you want to address?
No, man, I just want to say to you, man, you did a hell of a job. Like, you asked all the right questions, man. I think you definitely led me in the right way. So I appreciate it. You didn't miss anything. And you kind of even just asking me about my upbringing, that kind of let me talk about stuff that I haven't really thought about in years. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you for that, for sure.
And I definitely appreciate you. Like, I've been wanting to get you on the podcast for a minute because some of my best time doing dispatching was with like some of our conversations and talks. We'd be on Zoom when Zoom was popular. We'd be on
Yeah,
Zoom, just having conversations and talking about whatever. But I was just comfortable enough to tell you opinions of mine, and things like that. So
yeah.
even the other day, we was at the lounge doing work, and we got talking about some things. I was like, man, I miss like chopping it up with Lee, man. Say that was like one of my favorite things.
Yeah, man. You know, some of the best conversations gonna be off camera. We can't let
Yeah.
everybody in on the true thoughts and things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, man. I
Um,
love talking to you too, man. And you listen and you got a good perspective on life as well. So I like
mhm,
just as much as you like listening to me, I like
mhm,
listening to you. Like I know we were talking the other day and we were talking about a subject and you told me some things that I didn't even consider. So I
mhm.
appreciate that because you gave me a different outlook on something, you know.
Yeah. And so I am about to say this because I'm in a wheelchair and this is a disability podcast. I like to talk about everything, but I want to tie this into like anybody that's in a wheelchair that can that want to work. You know, this is a very accessible job you could do. Like I said, all you need is a phone, laptop. What else? Phone, laptop.
And a low
What?
and phone, laptop, Wi-Fi, and get you a load board and educate yourself on YouTube. Buy you a course or something, or I mean,
Mm,
even all your guests, they can reach out to me, and I'll be willing to help any way I can. You know, so that's what kind of even made me want to work with you even more
mm,
is the fact that I knew this was something that anybody could do. It
mm,
ain't no, you know what I'm saying. There's no limitation on this. It don't matter if you're in a wheelchair. It ain't got
mm,
like I can truly sit on my behind all day and do this. It ain't nothing to it. You know what I'm saying?
for sure. So that's good. Yeah, I like that a lot. So, man, I definitely appreciate you coming on the podcast again. Um, Definitely, bro. Anytime you want to come back, you got a topic, a conversation you want to have. Uh,
Yeah.
you always
Well,
welcome back to the podcast.
we gonna have to do one in person while we smoking the cigar. So
Oh, for sure. You
hopefully,
know me.
and we'll let some time pass. Hopefully, everything stay good, Lord willing, and
Mm,
we come back together when we got some other things to talk about. Maybe once I get a couple team members or something like that,
mm.
we'll have a whole nother angle that we can look at when it comes to this trucking business, and again, we could do it in person. So that'll be amazing, man.
Yeah, I'm always down for that, man, and stuff like that. But yeah, man, you have a good one, man. I see you when you come in town.
All right, man. You too. Thank you so much.
All right.